examining how current economic conditions are impacting small business access to capital. In August of last year, the U.S. financial markets experienced widespread losses stemming primarily from subprime mortgages. The impact spread throughout the lending market and is now being felt in other parts of our economy. That includes the nation's small business sector, which is our primary source of economic activity and historically led the way to financial recovery and job creation following downturns. As banks and other institutions struggle to recover from losses on Wall Street, they're also pulling back from lending on Main Street. The result is that credit is now harder than ever for small businesses to access. Not surprisingly, last month's Small Business Confidence Gauge, which is compiled by NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Business Owners, shows its lowest level since the survey was started in 1986. Furthermore, a joint survey conducted by Duke University and CFO Magazine notes that about 1/3 of small business owners are finding credit more costly, less available, or both. As capital availability tightens, many small businesses are forced to delay important purchases, halt planned expansions, or forego the creation of new jobs. And all of these choices hinder their ability to fuel economic expansion. In such an environment, the SBA's lending programs could play a pivotal role by bridging capital availability gaps. Unfortunately, the SBA's largest lending program, the 7A Initiative, has not risen to that task. Instead, in some ways, it's exacerbating contractions in the conventional credit markets. Through the first half of 2008, the number of 7A loans was down over 17% in comparison to the same period last year. The gross dollar amount of loans was also declining. To make matters worse, new fees and program mismanagement are keeping financial institutions from even participating in the program. There are clear solutions to these challenges, and last year the House took action to address many of them. We passed H.R. 1332, the Small Business Lending Improvements Act, which I authored. The bill lowers borrower costs, expands lender participation, and streamlines the 7A application process. This legislation would move us in the right direction. However, the Senate has not taken action on it at this time. As Congress continues to address the current challenges facing the economy, we must be sure to explore every avenue of small business financing. After all, with credit availability narrowing, it is more important than ever to ensure entrepreneurs have access to the tools they need to operate their businesses and grow the economy. I want to thank our witnesses in advance for joining us here today and for the valuable insights offered in their testimony. And I now recognize our ranking member for his opening statement.
Is that on? Okay. I want to thank the chair for yielding and calling this important hearing on the effects of the credit crunch on small business access to capital. I'd also like to extend my thanks to our witnesses today to get, because I know they're busy with their schedules, to provide testimony in today's hearing. There's no question in my mind that there's nothing more personal than the entrepreneur having the American dream. I've lived that dream. I know the risk and the rewards. I know its pains and successes. I've seen it from the bottom up, starting a small business, and from the top down as chairman of the Florida Chamber. I also know, for someone that's done a lot of planning in my businesses over a lot of years, that there's certain internal factors we can control small business and external factors that we can't control. And there's a lot of these external factors that are affecting a lot of people. The other thing, as the chairman of the Florida Chamber, I also realize that 99% of businesses in Florida and probably the country are small businesses, which create 70–80% of the jobs. And right now, the view in terms of small business in Florida, I'm sure throughout the country, is not pretty. Working families across the country are facing, families across the country are facing record foreclosures, rising gas prices, double-digit layoffs, and consumer confidence is at an all-time low. For small business their very survival is at stake, the inability to secure financing and credit can imperil their very existence. Today, this committee is not simply sitting on a sideline observing the challenge, and I thank the Madam Chairwoman to take this leadership. We'll be hearing from people that are involved and affected by a capital meltdown, affecting lenders and borrowers as well. I hope to come together and find real solutions that can make it easier for small business to secure the financing they need at a price that makes sense. Also, being on bank boards for 20 years or so, I realize that a lot of these entities are heavily leveraged themselves, 4 or 5% capital. So what happens if you look back in 1992 when S&L and banks were under crisis, their capital gets under crisis, and even good companies, good small businesses that have fairly good balance sheets and good income, they can't get loans. So that's critical for someone that's been there. As I was working on my way up, I never asked for a government handout. I only asked that we never be shut out. Owning a business was my dream, and it's a dream of millions of Americans as well. It's my duty here in Congress to construct and maintain a system in which these entrepreneurs have the ability to start and run their businesses successfully.